and welcome to another season of critically acclaimed book podcast. Yeah, we read it. I'm your host, Maggie.
And I'm also your host, Laura. Wow, Meg, can you believe our 11th season already?
I can't believe that critically acclaimed book podcast, Yeah, we read it, is on their 11th season. I feel like I'm calling us that because that is the header that I used when I was trying to get Caroline Kepnes on the season. Was like, join us on critically acclaimed book podcast. But I think we're prestigious enough. I think we've earned it.
I feel like, 11 seasons. I feel like we can continue to say that we are a good podcast.
Yeah, I think that we can be confident
I
enough
think I
in
think
that.
we're allowed to say whatever the fuck we want about our very own podcast.
And you know what?
Um
If anything, I'm so into self-preservation that if we even just have me as a fan to listen to old jokes about that I made myself that I thought was funny, I think that's all that matters.
Hey, I love a stroll down memory lane from things that we said on this podcast. Don't even get me started. But we are going to get started on this season 11. Listeners, you're in a great spot. You're in a great spot because this is the first episode of the season. You're not coming in too early, you're not coming in too late. You're right on time. This season we are reading One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. And this is a trilogy. Again, we've been feeling the trilogies lately.
Yeah, and boy, Karen, did you McMahon us with this book series
Did you
because
have that written down, Meg? Did you write that down for this podcast?
no, but I just thought of it.
No, I do like it, but part of it did sound written down, but
I
that's
know.
okay.
I thought of it on this fly because that's a joke for me to find later.
Oh,
One of Us is Lying. This book series moved so quickly. Once again, we are picking bangers this
we
season.
are with we
This
this
summer.
entire year I feel like we've been just killing it with our selections because I'm
Yeah.
just gonna flat out say what we're all wondering. I loved this book. This book was so freaking fun. I think I read it in a day and a half. That's how good of a book it was.
Yeah, I read this one really fast and then have been trying to hold off on tearing through the rest because I'm like I will forget if I go
Right?
too
I know.
fast.
There's so many characters and this plot is so like good and jumps around so much that I'm just like I even was thinking about cuz I'm already on the third book and I was like writing my notes down today being like, "Do I remember what happened in the first book?" I do, thankfully, but I was worried for a second.
Hey, luckily if we ever lose our place, we got that Peacock show sitting right there fresh and pretty for us.
Yeah, yeah, we do. And boy, am I much like we checked out The Summer I Turned Pretty after we read all the books. I am absolutely going to check out the show One of Us is Lying that sadly I don't think got renewed for a second season, but I will check it out after I read the third book.
After this break. I
After
don't
this
know.
break. Yeah,
um
we just keep pretending like we're sponsoring for like breaks, like
Yes, we're
sponsored breaks.
sponsoring for the Peacock show, One of Us is
Yeah.
Lying. But this isn't the Peacock show, One of Us is Lying. This is the book review. And with that being said, I feel like it's time for us to take a little dive down One of Us is Lying lane,
Dun
where we
dun. I
start
feel
out.
like we need like
Dun,
a good
dun.
like what the Law and Order like dun dun because it's a crime book, you know?
Oh, it is. It's like a murder mystery book, which
Yeah.
actually I don't think we've done
No, this is our
anything like
first
that
time
yet.
doing like a murder spooky time, but it's not really that spooky, but it
I
is
guess
thrilling.
I guess Private, but I don't think Private started off like
Private turned
intentionally
into a
being.
murder mystery. Kieran had us going in all sorts of directions, and I loved that for her.
I do love too when we talked to Kieran, she was like, "I don't even remember writing it, but I will try my best."
I honestly her writing tactic of just like I would just write down the like 10 most insane things, and the most insane one is what I would go with. And I'm like, and that's how we got witches in Private.
That's how we got witches. No witches here. We do though. We with One of Us is Lying. We're gonna be switching off between four point of views.
Yes.
The main characters are Bronwyn, who's kind of the brainiac. Cooper, who's like the athlete. Nate, who is like the bad boy,
Yeah.
and Addie, who's like the homecoming queen.
Yeah.
So that's
And
what
then
the
there's
book's gonna be.
yeah, no, it is the beginning of this book is very breakfast clubby
Yes.
because we essentially are starting out with these four main characters are going into detention. There is a
Mhm.
fifth character with them, Simon, who's kind of like the outcast, which again, very Breakfast Club. And
Mhm.
they are students all at Bayview High. And we learn pretty quickly from Bronwyn and her POV talking to Simon on the way to detention that Simon's a little snaky. He has an app that just is school gossip, so a little gossip girl mixed in there. And nobody really likes Simon. So somehow Simon is become a character in the school that is both like worshipped, feared, and taken for his word, but also disliked heavily, which I think is so fascinating.
Yeah, he's a very interesting character. Like Laura said, he runs a gossip blog about that. I thought he was gonna be a gay guy. He's not. But that's
Why do
also
you think
I
he was going to be gay, Meg?
because I don't know why a straight guy would run a gossip blog, but maybe
Well,
that's I
Maggie,
don't know.
straight people can run gossip blogs too.
I guess they can be interested in that. I feel like the straight guys I dated always hated
Yeah.
reality TV.
Meg, you need to
So
open your mind a little more and stop thinking about things as so black and white.
you're right. Straight guys can be petty too. And they are all in this detention because they were caught with a cell phone out. Mr. Avery, the detention guy, has collected all their cell phones, but Bronwyn insists that it's not her cell phone. She offers up her own cell phone. She's like, "Li- I think that they were planted on us." And he's like, no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah, so it's interesting that all 5 of these people had a mystery phone planted on them. Mr. Avery has called them all into detention. He's going to have them write a detention essay um, while they're doing this.
Hmm.
Simon is going to ask Nate, who's, the criminal. He's an easy scapegoat. He's going to be like, hey, buddy, did you plant all these phones in our bags because you're the only one that I feel like would be able to do that. And it's like, I don't give a shit about any of you. Why would I do that? But while the essay writing is starting, an accident happens in the parking lot. We hear 2 cars crash in the parking lot. Mr. Avery springs into action. He's going to dip out. And Simon gets on his soapbox and he starts to call everybody stereotypes. He then immediately starts to have an allergic reaction
To water. He
to
takes a drink
water.
of
So this is
water.
suspicious. Very
They're all
suspicious.
running around because this is like a really bad allergic reaction to water. Bad.
Yeah.
Insane. They're trying to get some EpiPens. Cooper, the all-star athlete, as aforementioned, he runs to the nurses, but for some reason the nurses' room doesn't have any EpiPens. And then the ambulance comes, picks up Simon, and it seems like he does not seem like he's going to do too well.
No, no, things aren't going very well. Addie, who obviously our preppy girl, our little homecoming princess, she's gonna call her boyfriend Jake, just kind of in tears, kind of panicking. Jake, all American type style guy, he's gonna take her home, and that leaves Nate and Bronwyn in the parking lot alone. And we learned pretty quickly that they went to like elementary school together, but they're not really
Mhm.
friends now. They're very much on 2 different paths. Bronwyn being the academic, and Nate being the little drug dealer that he is. Um, but he's gonna give her a ride home on his motorcycle.
Yeah, the trauma bonding starts early with them as they go beep beep on the death machine. She does give in to drinking some I don't know.
I was like, do motorcycles have horns? But I think they do.
I don't know. She does drink some alcohol to calm herself down
Oh yeah, I
before getting
forgot
on,
about that.
which I thought I was
Slay.
like, "Oh, I
Hot.
will always fall for the bad boy making the good girl like do bad things like drink alcohol, which really who cares at like
Ooh.
16." But it seems like a little bit of a romance will be brewing between these two. And she does get a call that Simon is dead officially, which is not
Yikes.
good.
Not good. Not because they were just they don't even know how they got in detention, much less now this kid died. The next day, we get a little more intel for Simon's app. Was it called About That?
It's called about that.
About that. And we learned that from Bronwyn's point of view that the app is always right. Like there's never been a wrong rumor on this app, which is kind of spooky. All of the detention kids do get like one-on-one counseling
Mhm.
by the principal. And we also get a moment with Bronwyn kind of declaring that she's no longer interested to the academic boy she's been kind of flirting with, Evan.
Yep.
And she talks to Nate in the hallway, and her friends are like, "Why are you talking to Nate? He's a criminal." So again, something's a brewing up here.
And that can't work for Bronwyn because Bronwyn's trying to go to Yale. She's like this highly overachieving individual.
Yeah.
She doesn't got time for the bad boy. We do kind of learn later on that she is kind of like overcompensating to try to carry the weight of everything since her sister had cancer in the past.
Yeah.
So that's Bronwyn's whole deal. And then we kind of switch over to Cooper, who is dating Keely. She is best friends with Addie. She sounds like the hottest girl in school
Yeah.
ever. Good for her.
Okay. Really? That's how you read her character.
I read her as like all the guys wanted to be with her, and she was curvy. So I was like, okay, so she must be the most popular one. I was like
Got
trying
it.
to rank Addie, her, and Olivia.
Got it.
I think another friend of theirs.
But also from Cooper's POV, everybody is called into the office from this little four detention crew. They learned that Simon's cup was laced. So
Hmm.
that's not good.
Yeah, there was peanut oil in the cup. He's got a
Yeah,
peanut allergy.
spooky. Yeah, he had a severe peanut allergy. And then we also get a little bit of the aftermath of this as Cooper goes home. We learn a little bit about his family dynamic. He has his nanny, who's his rich grandmother, who they're living with. They're from Mississippi. His
Mhm.
pops is what he calls his dad. His dad and him don't really have a close relationship. His dad just cares that he's going to be like a star baseball player. And then we also learn that something's up with Cooper because he gets a text from somebody who is not Keely, saying that like they really miss him and want to see him later. So we know that Cooper's probably cheating on Keely.
Yeah, we do. Meanwhile, things are not going like that over at Addie's house because Jake, her boyfriend, have come over and it seemed like they fucked. And I was like, nice, go
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Jake does mention that Simon's mom wants him to be a pallbearer at the funeral. It's kind of noted here that like Jake was really close friends with Simon in the
Yeah.
past, but not anymore because Jake became closer to Cooper and Jake and Simon kind of drifted apart. And that was when Simon started his blog to get Jake's attention, hoping it would work.
Yeah, and we also learn here that like the really like the closest Addie's ever been to like knowing Simon is that her friend Keely made out with him at a party once a few summers ago or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, we also then shift to Nate, who lives in a very, very shitty house that's very run down. We learn that his mom up and left him one day, and it's a really sad story about like how his mom was going to move to Oregon, and she kept saying like, "Bring your lizard, we're going to go together," and then he just like waited an entire day for her out on the front step, and she never showed up.
Yeah, his mom is bipolar, so she's like a little erratic and I mean, obviously, manic and depressive. And his dad is also an alcoholic.
Yeah,
So that's kind of Nate's life. Pretty
and
bad deal.
this whole situation about like the weird way they got into tension, this weird, Simon's cup was laced. Things are getting a lot weirder because a Tumblr post drops that talks about a person's point of view of why they killed Simon. So
Hmm.
now we're thinking this wasn't necessarily an accident.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the kids are like taking it as seriously as I feel like I would. I think it took them a while to figure out the Tumblr was like a threat
Yeah,
that they should take seriously because it like details the all of the details of the room that they were in
yeah,
essentially and how they were going to kill Simon. But Nate doesn't really have time for that. Nate's got to go
no.
to Bronwyn's. He just kind of pops up, which honestly I respect. I would have been
Hot,
like a
hot.
hot guy shows up to my house, I would have been really stressed out.
She
And
just plays piano for him.
yeah, she plays a really difficult song. It's like
Hot.
something I know. Further cementing his love. This
This budding
booting,
romance.
booting. Why am I saying it like that? Booting?
I don't know. Why are
Butting?
you saying it like that? Budding? Booting?
I don't know. I think I'm reading my next note, which is that Officer Budapest. Which what a banger of a last name.
That's a good last name, yeah.
He goes to Addie's that night, and he notes that she was in the nurse's log that day and asks if she took EpiPens.
Um, yeah, so Abby, while we were in the office that day, she lies. She said she was getting Tylenol for her period. We later learned that Jake made her go to get Tylenol for him. And then we
Mhm.
also get to meet her sister Ashton, who's in this like awful marriage. I don't even remember her husband's name. That's how awful this marriage is.
I think
And
it's like
Ashton
Charles.
I think it was Charles. And Ashton really does not like Addie and Jake together. I think Ashton sees a lot of herself in Addie, and she kind of throughout this book tries to like warn Addie that like, hey, you kind of always heir to Jake on everything. Like you are a shell of what you used to be because
Yeah.
all you are labeling yourself as is this girlfriend. And this especially is cemented when Jake shows up to take Addie to this like beach bonfire, and he makes her change outfits to wear something that he likes more.
It's like a she's obviously in a sweatshirt and, like,
Yeah.
shoes, and he's like, "Hmm, instead of flip-flops, what about, like, a low heel and not a
Yeah.
big non form-fitting sweatshirt?"
Gross, gross. And
I
she's like, "Well, it's gonna
know.
be cold." And he's like, "Well, like, but you'll be sitting next to me." Like, it's awful. And also this guy TJ is there, and we learn that Addie hooked up with TJ a month after her first time having sex with Jake because she was
Ooh.
so afraid that he was going to leave her that she self-sabotaged and cheated on him.
So, they are going to this bonfire with TJ in the back seat. When Jake gets out, TJ's like, "Look, let's just pretend like nothing ever happened," and she's kinda relieved about that because, I mean, that's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's what's up.
Yeah, and then we're back with Cooper. Cooper's kind of just like a baseball guy. I feel like every time he was doing something with baseball, I just wrote down baseball. Um,
Yeah, I know, I wrote baseball showcase tryout things.
yeah, he's talking to a Padres guy. I had that written down. We also do a cut to Simon's memorial. And we are introduced to a girl named Leah who was one of their classmates. And we learned that Simon was so brutal about the tea he dropped on Leah that she tried to kill herself. And
Yeah.
Leah also does point out that another Tumblr post has just dropped. So whoever's making this Tumblr is making more of them.
Yeah, and this one has a few more specific details about
Mhm.
how exactly the person killed Simon, and now they're like, "Alright, we have to take this, maybe a little bit seriously," but they don't have
Yeah.
time because it's funeral day. Nate is there with his parole officer from a drug bust, and
Hot. No, I'm kidding.
honestly, I mean, if he's making money, he's making money. And at this funeral, the parole officer made him go to, a new officer shows up, and he's got some questions for Nate and all the girlies, actually, all the girlies.
Yeah.
All the
Everybody's
Bayview
getting every
High girlies.
I will say this got so confusing because everybody had a different detective name. So and it was like, oh, there wasn't just one detective on the case. There was multiple
Yeah,
assigned to each child. But I was also like, this would be more realistic because it wouldn't just be like a single detective probably on a murder case or something like that.
just
Um
Officer Budapest, he's the only
just
one.
well
He's
no
a worldly man.
yeah, he's traveled, well versed and cultured.
That's why he earned
Um,
his last name.
yeah, Addie's detective corners her at this funeral and shows Addie the admin panel of the app and shows her
Mhm.
that there was a page that was about to be published on about that had secrets about each and every person. Basically, that Bronwyn had cheated to get a good grade in chem, that Addie had hooked up with TJ, that Cooper was on steroids, and Nate's was like selling drugs. And everybody's like, well, that's obvious. We all knew that. And Addie basically learns in this moment that they are all suspects.
Yep, that's what the police are leading to. So Addie tries to leave because she's like, I don't have to answer anything. I don't have a lawyer. And they're like, damn, technically true. Got her ass.
These detectives are so shady. They really keep trying to like fear talk these children into like giving them information without like their parents or a lawyer present. It is so snaky,
I know. I feel like that would be so admissible in a court of law, but whatever.
right? Like, come
So
on.
Addie calls her sister crying, and Cooper, meanwhile, in his interrogation, he mentions that he thought his secret was going to be worse. So I was like, what is he hiding? Is he the one who killed
Yeah,
Simon?
exactly.
He
Yeah, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna keep saying that. He also doesn't really say that much, similar to Addie. He's
Yeah,
just
and
like, tight-lipped.
Bronwyn doesn't even talk to the detective. Her parents intercept the detective before she can even get a peep out. Much like her herself. Bronwyn's parents are just smart overachievers. They're like, nope, we're not talking about this till we have a lawyer. And Bronwyn, she's gonna come clean immediately before things can get too out of hand. She tells her parents that she cheated in chem. They are not happy, but they're like, we do have bigger things to deal with right now than you dropping this little truth bomb on us.
This ride home is the complete opposite of Nate's ride home because it seems like the only person who kind of cares about him is his parole officer.
Yeah.
Because the parole officer, I mean, he lays it on thick. She's like, "Listen, they're gonna scapegoat you. Um, like your life is pretty terrible." And he's like, "Yeah."
It's true. Like, it's like, hey, they're gonna put this on you because you're an underprivileged person. Like,
I mean, he gets home and his dad has like drank himself to the point of vomiting, and so he's like, ugh. So he goes over to Bronwyn's after this to meet up, but her dad pretty much is like, you cannot see her right now, and he's like,
yeah,
all right, so we're drawing lines in the sand. I see how
yeah,
it is.
yeah. Poor Nate. He just wanted a pretty girl to look at, you know.
I
Um,
know.
And then we're gonna check in with Addie, and she is at her sister Ashton's, and Ashton's like, "Hey, maybe you should just tell Jake because the truth's gonna come out eventually. The truth will set you free." And Addie's like, "You're right." So Ashton's gonna give her a ride over to Jake's. She's very nervously approaching Jake. She goes into the basement like they always do. And Jake's really calm at first when she says, "Hey, so I want you to know this from me that I had sex with TJ. But I'm really, really sorry about it." And Jake goes, "Oh, you're really sorry about it." Like he's gonna be like, maybe he's gonna understand a little bit. And then he punches a wall.
Oh my god, I was like, fuck him.
Ugh. Awful, awful, absolutely awful. He's terrifying. So she obviously leaves. Ashton, great big sister, waiting for her across the street in her car, still like idling it, being like, in case this went bad, I'm here.
Yeah, that was really nice of her. That was good of
Yeah.
her to wait. Um, Meanwhile, Bronwyn is finally meeting with her attorney. Her attorney's name is Robin, and Robin is essentially like, don't talk to any of the other kids involved because it will make you look bad. But that's really
Yeah.
bad news because, as we said, justice for the cute boys who just want a cute girl to look at, and that's Nate.
Yeah, and justice for the cute girls who just want a cute boy to look
Cute boy
at.
to look at.
Bronwyn, who now just has to get her fix talking to him in the school hallway.
Cute boys looking at cute girls and vice versa is admissible in a court of law. If I had a gavel, I would
I'm
pound it.
Mikey, I would go as far to say that I think that's in the Declaration of Independence. That is an amendment. That is an
This is
amendment
what
that
our
this
founding
country was
fathers
built on.
wanted. Yes,
The founding
exactly.
fathers want both cute boy and cute girl to constantly be able to look at each other if both consent to being cute to the other party.
To the other party. That's exactly what I
That's,
was gonna say. That's
some
crazy.
people just don't read the whole thing sometimes. But Nate's gonna get real slay right here. Since he still wants to talk to Bronwyn, he's gonna give her a burner phone.
That's like the like sluttiest way of making pigeon carrier a thing. And
The sluttiest way of making pigeon carrier a thing. Man, that should be a t-shirt.
do you remember, did you have in middle school those like Firefly phones that were indestructible that you could
I
only
remember
call
those,
home?
yeah.
That's what I'm imagining here. She has just like a Firefly phone and he's the only person on it.
I pictured it as like one of those like 'cause I had like a Nokia brick phone when I was in middle school that was just like prepaid phone.
Oh
That was
yeah.
also indestructible. It looked like a hockey puck. So that's what I was picturing this on because they never text on it. They can only call. So it does make sense.
Regardless, just imagine a burner phone that is like an inch thick and you can drop it from a third story building and it won't break. That's what
Yeah,
I
and it's
imagine.
also nondescript at all. Like I'm picturing her handing her this giant phone in the hallway, and it's gonna stick out of her like bag. It's gonna stick out in her pocket. It is very obvious.
Just another one for Mr. Avery to take away. So while this is going on, Cooper is at lunch. He's trying to defend Addie to their friends because they're the popular kids. And the popular kids can turn on you in a heartbeat, Addie. Sorry,
Yeah,
buddy.
and he's gonna see Jake get punch TJ, and it makes lunch real awkward because TJ I think still sits with them, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Honestly,
Honestly, go
bless
off
TJ.
TJ. Yeah.
During this
Um.
time, Cooper does get two important phone calls, one from a mysterious K, Chris with a K.
Yeah.
Keely's like, who spells Chris with a K except for a girl? And he's like, no, don't worry about it. It's just a baseball buddy.
Yeah.
and one about his grandma Nani having a heart attack, unfortunately.
Sad, like, as if being suspected for murder isn't enough, to get, like, a call that, like, your favorite guardian figure is in the hospital after having a heart attack, like, poor
Yeah.
Cooper.
You know,
Um,
if it was like I got a murder there, like, and then the MLB is taken away, and then grandma has a heart attack, I would buy a
yeah,
2 liter of Mountain Dew, and I would play League of Legends and get really mad and break my computer.
and maybe level up, get some Taco Bell for yourself, Cooper, really cheer yourself up.
Yeah,
Speaking of phone calls, someone's about to get one on their burner phone. That was a nice segue, right?
that was.
Thank you. I worked really hard on it in my brain and then I said it. Nate, he's gonna give Bronwyn a call on her burner phone, and Bronwyn just kind of lets it all out on the line. She says, I used to have a crush on you when we were kids. And Nate's gonna say, I'm a playboy. And he invites a different girl over named Amber so they can do the dirty.
I know, it's like after they've had this really nice late night movie talk over the phone, you know when you have those with a crush, and you're
Yeah.
talking on the phone, you watch a movie, and then you're gonna invite someone else over? How
Yeah.
dare you?
Ugh, I hate it, but doesn't it make us want him more? Because we want him to pay attention to us. He's so not serious.
I don't know, maybe she dodged a bullet. The only late night movie watcher crush that I ever had turned out to be a furry, so what are you gonna do?
Oh, the
Addie!
way my jaw just dropped. I want to point this out for the listeners because Maggie, I've heard so many stories, but I don't think I've heard the one that you had a late night movie crush that turned out to be a furry. Did you guys always watch like animated like movies that had
I think we
My
talked
Little
about
Ponies in
I
them?
think we talked about Toontown. You know this person. I will text you who it is. I'll give you
Okay, perfect.
context.
Oh my god,
So
we're gonna start our own gossip website and we're gonna drop the tea about this person. Uh,
it's not T. They have a lot of followers on TikTok.
Good. Okay, gonna ruin their life. Uh,
Don't.
we're not. We're
Meanwhile,
not. I'm joking. I'm joking. It went too far. This bit went too far.
Addie, who's not a furry, is the only reason
Speaking of
she's
people who aren't furries, great segue.
Did you like my segue?
That was an awesome segue, Meg. This is a great episode for segues.
Addie, she is being pushed to go to school by her sister, and it's not really great at school. She's really
No.
anxious. She's vomiting nonstop. And she runs into TJ in the hallway, and she's like, "Fuck God, why do I have to deal with this too?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "If they're gonna be assholes, let's give them something to talk about."
Yeah,
And
so
I
they're gonna
was like,
sit with each other at lunch, which is really cute. And also people are writing like horror on her locker, which is like, guys, come on.
"Guys, we
What
can't do
is this?
this."
High school? It is, so that makes sense.
It is.
But
It is.
it's a little too mean. IMO.
To make matters worse, the Tumblr post with the anonymous post the draft that was a lot of posts. The
Yeah.
drafted message Simon had on about that the next day, and now everyone in school knows their secrets.
Yeah, yeah. So
Ugh.
they are all getting called to the office to kind of be like, "Hey, what the fuck is this?" And
Yeah.
Nate actually holds Bronwyn's hand under the table, which is like kind of hot because
I
like they're
was
in
like,
trouble, but they're
okay.
not. Ah.
I loved that.
Um. So the four of them do talk after because they're all finally like kind of in a collective like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
But they don't really draw any conclusions. They're just kind of like, this is a lot.
They remain resolute. They're like, we're not going to say anything. And later that night, when Bronwyn and Nate are watching the movie, they start kind of hypothesizing, being like, is it any of us? Could any of us have killed someone? But they're like,
Yeah.
there's no way between the four of
Yeah.
us.
And we also do learn here that Nate and Bronwyn are talking on their burner phones every single night. This isn't just like when they're bored or anything, like this is a ritual now.
Yeah. So I guess that's going to be a thing. And this time they're actually closer to getting together because Nate is trying to get Bronwyn to come over and finish this
Yeah.
movie IRL with him. And that seems like a little convo that is to be continued.
Yes. But Cooper is
Play.
now in the hospital with Nani. She's okay, folks. She's okay.
We know you
She's
were worried.
okay. We know you were worried. I definitely was because I was like, are we gonna have another funeral in this book? Non-related? No, because Nani is fine.
She comes really hot off of her heart, like almost stopping by being
Yeah,
like,
Nani
I'm
snaps
awake.
back into advice mode. Jesus.
She's like, break up with your girlfriend. And I'm like, all right, well, hey, if someone almost died and that's their
I mean,
advice, I feel like I have to take it.
I do like how close their relationship is because like Cooper's like really filling her in about all this Simon stuff and how stressful it is and how like clingy Keely's being, and Annie's just like, hey, she's not the girl for you, dump her.
No.
And we also do hear in Cooper's thoughts saying to himself that, you know, he's not on steroids, but he's really worried because there is a much bigger story um about him
Mhm.
that is not on that Tumblr post, and he's worried that that could still come to light. So
And
something's in the cookbook. It's a
something's in the
brewing.
air.
It's
Can
a
you feel the
brewing.
love tonight? You know what they say.
uh, I was gonna say like something amore, but that's amore. That's what I was gonna say. Like
Oh,
the when
that's
the moon
amore.
hits your eye, that's amore.
When the moon hits your eye.
Uh,
Um,
it was gonna be so good if I remembered it at the time, but I didn't. It's fine. It's fine. Let's move on.
no one right now is having a good time, Laura included, because she can't remember what it was. But no one more than Addie, Addie's sister, who says that her husband is cheating on her,
And he's
and
moving out.
huge bummer. But they have some sister trauma bonding, kind of the
Love.
crux of this relationship, and friendship, and whole book. I like
Yeah.
that the moral is like the friends you make through trauma, those are the real ones, baby.
That's honestly kind of true.
Yeah, and it's good that they're bonding because I mean she can't really go to parties with her friend group as much now.
Yeah.
And so it's things are turning up Addie.
Yeah, no, and Ashton tries to get her to be like, "What's something you like to do before you started dating Jake?" And Addie's like grasping at straws and says bike riding. So she's gonna start riding a bike everywhere.
We love
Um,
that.
Now we're gonna check in with Bronwyn, who is with her sister Maeve at the library, and we learn Maeve's a little tech deck head. Like she can hack into the mainframe like nobody's business. So she's on basically a burner computer at the library, so her IP address isn't tracked. She is in the admin panel for About That, the gossip website, and we learned that Cooper's post was updated before it dropped. So there was something else there, and somebody switched it out.
Hmm.
We also learned about how Maeve got access. It was some super techy stuff. So we're doing some dirty work because the cops aren't getting there fast enough, is what we're getting.
And Maeve
Um,
does notice an encrypted folder on Cooper that she
yes,
downloads to try to break into later. So we
exactly.
might get that juicy hot secret.
And after this, they have to go pick up a new burner phone in a spooky little mailbox in a neighborhood development that hasn't quite been built yet because Bronwyn's ran out of minutes. So
That's
romance
love.
isn't dead, folks.
Honestly, that's you go to lengths for the bad boy. Let me tell you. Let me tell
Absolutely.
you. Jake and Cooper, meanwhile, they have a run in at this party that Cooper is attending, and Jake is drunk. Jake is, and as we know, when Jake is drunk and mad, he's not fun to be around.
I would
But
argue Jake's never fun to be around. Even when he's sober, he sucks.
I'm like, you think he's fun sober? Then what's wrong?
He's
Get your
also
mental checked.
wrong. You're wrong.
You're wrong. He is mad that Cooper is standing up for Addie nonstop because he's insecure as hell. I wrote down, which
Yeah,
true.
true.
And Cooper also learns the four of them are now officially people of interest, which is not good
Yeah.
because that means there's going to be a media frenzy.
And that's exactly what happens next. From Nate's point of view, reporters have surrounded the school. Not fun. And he knows they're waiting for all of them to exit for the day so they can get bombarded. But he's gonna help Bronwyn out a little bit, and they're going to escape on his bike through the backwoods that's at the like tail end of the school. Um,
Yeah.
and they're
You're
gonna
like,
have a
where
little, yeah.
where are they going? Are they going to like a resolute place where no one can find them? Nope, they're going to the
No,
mall.
mall parking lot, but they do almost kiss here. It's also a little spooky though because like a van pulls up right next to them, and it's just like a soccer mom's van.
Yeah.
They go to the mall and they're gonna like hang out while they're waiting for Maeve to pick Bronwyn up. But people are staring at them, which is not ideal.
No.
Bronwyn, ever trying to be helpful, tells Nate to lawyer up. Which causes like a little bit of a rift, but they get over it pretty quickly. She gives him a little kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, she turns around. She's like, I'm sorry. She did do her research though. It's like a pro bono
Yeah.
group called Until Proven
Yeah,
who could
she's just
probably get a
trying to
lawyer.
help. She's just trying to help.
She's trying. And Addie's also trying to help too because at school the next day she hears Simon's old best friend Janae, who's kind of like a goth girl,
Yeah.
crying in one of the bathroom stalls. And Addie's like trying to help. She's like, "Oh, do you need like tissue? Here's this. Like, hey, I've been there. I was in this stall crying last week." And Janae's kind of like, "Oh, so you're talking to me now? What? Because you don't have any friends?"
Honestly, fair reaction from Janae.
Yeah.
Um, but they're kind of forming a little friendship too. And Bronwyn also invites Addie to sit with her at lunch, which is really nice because Bronwyn knows Addie doesn't really have like any friends right now. And Addie, on her like new paved journey to find herself, goes and cuts all of her hair off after school.
I love it. She, like,
I
sits
love
down at
it.
Supercuts, and they won't cut her hair because it's, like, so long and beautiful, and she just, like, takes a buzzer or trimmer and, like, does it herself, and she's like, "Deal with it." And I was like, "Oh, no," she
Yeah.
says, "Fix it." I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah."
Oh my god, it was such a like well-written scene because like the Supercuts person is like, maybe just like a trim. I really like I love your hair, like it's fine. And to just like mask off, be like, nope, I'm gonna cut my hair then and you're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Um now we're checking in with Bronwyn. Their story of them being suspects has gone international. And
Oops.
Bronwyn's sitting down to watch Mikhail Powers, who's like got this like very like Anderson Cooper vibe, doing a global story on them. Um, and
Whatever
it's
happens internationally stays on Mikhail Powers Investigate. Yep.
okay, I liked that.
Pretty cool.
I liked
I
it. Yeah,
tried.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
workshopping.
And this entire show is very incriminating towards these children. The only saving grace is that he does interview a lawyer from Until Proven named
Mhm.
Eli, who's the only person who says there has to be more suspects because it just doesn't seem plausible. It just doesn't seem plausible that there wasn't some ulterior motive. There wasn't some other person in the room. Like, why was this car accident so conveniently happening when this was all going down? So Eli's somebody who Bronwyn really wants to talk to now because she thinks that he might be able to help them.
And she celebrates that night by, you guessed it, calling Nate. And once again, Nate is inviting her over.
She
And
doesn't go, and she doesn't
she
go.
doesn't go, but they are talking about boundaries and like around doing physical stuff and romantic stuff. And she's just like,
Cute,
I don't
hot.
don't really have that much experience as you. And very cute, very sweet.
And now we're gonna check in with Cooper, who is going to dump Keely, the
Switching
woman of
lanes.
the hour.
Absolutely.
Another Tumblr post has been dropped as well. And Keely's gonna try to really dig her nails into this breakup. Because Cooper doesn't seem very broken up about it. Clearly, she is. So she's trying to make him jealous by saying, "By the way, I kissed Nate before we started dating." Cooper doesn't react, and she basically calls him a robot. Um, which I think hurts him more than the breakup too. Is just the thought of him being very robotic about things.
Yeah.
So poor Cooper, he's just getting it left and right, you
I
know?
know. He's just trying to do the best he can.
Yeah.
In science the next day, Addie, who is kind of obsessing over the coverage about the girls, she is paired up with TJ for science class, and we can see that like Addie's finally kind of changing a little bit because he says because of man comments. He says that she seems a lot funnier and down to earth now that Jake isn't really like controlling her, and she's kind of upset about this. But in hindsight, she's like, maybe this is a good thing that I'm not with him.
Yeah, and she's also kind of realizing like, "Oh, TJ likes me as a person, like
She's
not as like a coveted trophy." Interesting. So Addie's learning a lot about herself. And we love that for her.
But she gets a vibe check when she runs into Jake in the hallway. They agree to talk later that night. Maybe it actually seems like he wants to know how she's doing. So she's like, yeah, I guess I could get some closure later. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But we're gonna cut to Nate, who's hanging out with Bronwyn after school, finally in a more secluded area. They're hanging out at a place called the Peak, which is just like a little like overhang in the woods. It doesn't go down very far. But it's hidden enough that the reporters won't find them. And Bronwyn basically gives him the fill-in on what she learned from Eli. That Eli thinks that the car accident was maybe planned. They all start to, kind of talk about their suspectedness and basically promise not to kill each other, which then leads to them finally kissing.
Oh, yeah, they're making out, and it is a very, very hot scene. It's, like, described in a way where, he kisses her while, she's laughing, and they're, like, grabbing each other, and it's interrupted by Maeve calling,
Yeah.
saying that the police wanna ask her follow-up questions, which sucks, Maeve. Read a room when you're not in
Read
it,
a
you
room,
know?
Maeve. Know that your sister's getting it on right now and leave her alone. But if that wasn't enough, Nate is obviously going to drive them back to his house where Maeve is going to pick her up. Nate's mother, who Bronwyn thinks is dead, is now on the front porch. And
Oh,
Bronwyn
don't
can't
you
stick
hate when that
around.
happens?
Don't you hate when that happens? And Bronwyn can't stick around to ask him any questions because Maeve's beeping up in the car to say, hey, get in, let's go to the station.
And Mom's like, "Get out the death trap. Get out the beep beep death trap."
Ooh.
Ooh. So
Um,
Bronwyn is on her way to the detectives, and the detectives, they get right down to it. They pull up the post Simon made about Maeve, who was getting too drunk at a party, I think like her freshman year, really
yeah.
making a fool of herself, and trying to like go after this one athlete, kind of throwing herself at him. And Simon says something like really insensitive about like she can't just throw herself at anyone despite having cancer, and Bronwyn commented fuck off and die, which I would too. That's my
Yeah,
sister.
and in the grand scheme of, this guy just died, doesn't look great for Bronwyn.
Oh no.
No, not looking good at all. But now we're gonna check back in with Addie, who is at Jake's house. And this scene is also really well written because it really does capture what it's like to kind of like hang out with an ex after you guys have broken up, and all of that familiarity has been like sucked out, and everything
Yeah.
suddenly feels super awkward. Because she even mentions like, "Oh, I was so used to like you turn right when you first walk in because we would go into the basement, but now he's leading me into like their dining room and we're sitting at this table which feels super formal and it's
Yeah.
very very awkward." And Jake doesn't ask her how she's doing. He asks about the investigation.
Yeah, and it doesn't really go anywhere. She's just kind of like Bronwyn thinks that we should be looking into more people, the police should, and Jake gets kind of snippy and mad about that. And then he, of course, like an ex does, gets mad about the cheating thing, which is like, no, 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 that happened weeks
Yeah.
ago. We're over
And
that.
and
New
we love
thing.
this for Addie because she realizes that she doesn't need to put up with this anymore. They're not dating, so she just gets up and leaves.
I love that.
Takes her
Coop
little bike on out of there.
pedals her way to hell. Anyways, Cooper's at the gym. It's
Yeah, he
Cooper
is.
time. Cooper's at the gym, but he can't live a normal life like the other boys. He's like Hannah Montana.
Oh wait,
So
that's so good. That's such a good analogy, Meg.
thank you. So his bestie Lewis, Miley Cyrus, swaps cars with him. So Hannah Montana can enjoy his free time. He drives around
Which
for a
is
bit.
which is really nice of Luis to do. Like they were just like almost followed into the gym, and Luis is literally going to say, like, let the media chase me for a little bit. You go be a teenager. Like that's such a good friend.
And what does he do? What every teenager does. He goes into the city where he meets up with his secret boyfriend, Chris with a K.
They decide to just get it on. And
Yeah.
I was so hoping that Chris was gonna be a boy and that was gonna be the secret. And I was so happy when it was.
I didn't even
Um,
pick up, like, that he was cheating earlier on
oh
until, like
really?
no, I don't think I did at
Oh,
all.
I was like, "Oh, he's cheating. Oh, it's probably a boy," especially because they were, like, teasing out, like, "Oh, Chris is a weird name." I was like, "Gotta be a boy's name. It's gotta
I
be."
know, I loved this reveal.
Oh, great reveal, Karen. McManus, McMahon, we love it.
Us,
McMahon
McMahon,
us.
us.
Well, we're gonna figure it out, Karen. Just you wait.
We're gonna have a definition for you. But in the meantime, Nate's point of view, we switch over to that. He is upset that his mom has showed up, and she's like, "But I'm 3 months sober now. I want to make this work."
And
And
he's like, "But
he's,
you've been gone for 10
I
years."
know, seriously, I'd be like, "Well, you got some more work to do."
Yeah.
He's mad, so he goes to this party where Vanessa, one of the popular girls who's friends with Addie and is like the mean popular girl, she is hitting on him,
Ugh.
and Bronwyn texts and is like, "Can you come over to talk?" And there he goes, going over to talk.
And we're gonna roll reversal. We're getting Bronwyn's point of view now.
Ooh la
Waiting
la.
for waiting for the boy that she invited over. She is grounded, so she has to sneak Nate into the basement, which conveniently has like a soundproof media room.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Um, and so they talk about his mom. It's a really good conversation, and he kind of talks about it was easier to say that she was dead because it's kind of how he started to feel it. Then they start talking about what are they, and they kind of
Yeah.
say that like they wouldn't be opposed to being a thing. But they also really acknowledge that they can't be right now given the circumstances, that
Yeah,
they're
he also
wanted for murder.
has this weird complex where he always is like, "You're too good for me," to her, which is
God,
like,
yeah, Nate,
ugh, come on.
shove it up your ass, get over it. But then they're gonna end up making out for a really long
Really
time.
long time to the point where he's like, "Can we watch a movie? And also I need to cool down." That's what he says as
Yeah,
he's like readjusting himself, and I was like, "That's okay, that's hot."
yeah, pretty
Oops.
hot. Now we're gonna go back to Cooper and we're gonna learn that Chris is a freshman in college. That's really all we get from this scene. That's the only note I have from Cooper's point of view. I could have skipped over this and just went to
That
the
is
next
so
part.
funny. Cooper, there's this, and also now that we know that he's gay, another plot point is he is stressed about his dad finding out he's
Got
gay
it.
because
Yeah,
his
yeah,
dad is 100% a homophobe. I'm pretty sure at some point we had an F slur in this book, which makes sense in the context.
yeah. Yeah.
And he's remembering that maybe Simon was mad at him because Simon wanted to go to post prom once, but he was really nervous that Simon would figure out he was gay, so he kind of banned his friends from letting him come.
Yeah.
And so he's like, maybe that is why
Yeah.
Simon was mad at me.
Yeah. But
Oops.
now Nate, back with him, he is having dinner with his mom and she's really trying to turn it around. She's like, I'm going to help you guys pay for bills. I can help pay for things so that's not all on you. And Nate is hesitant, but he's not fully opposed. He does
Mhm.
leave still uneasy feeling because his mom's obviously very flaky, and he
Yes.
gets cornered by Mikhail in the parking lot of this freaking diner as he's trying to leave, which is not ideal. So yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, but someone does talk to Mikhail because later that day, Bronwyn's at lunch with Maeve and Addie, and Maeve pushes Leah, the girl who Laura mentioned earlier. Simon's blog post had an effect on
Yeah.
her to the point that she slit her wrists to go talk to Mikhail, and she does. She does.
Yeah.
Maeve does mention too that she has been going through these 4chan threads of Simon being on like school shooter Reddit apparently, and she's like, I'm gonna send them to Mikhail. And Janae, Simon's ex best friend, hears this and she's like really upset and gets up to leave.
Yeah, it's not the best lunch break, I'll say it. Um
I've seen better.
Yeah, I've seen better. Addie is next in gym class, and Addie's killing it on the track. Like, Addie's realizing like she's passing people. She's like sees Jake off in the distance, and she's like, I'm gonna pass him too. But Vanessa, huge bitch, needless to say, trips Addie, and she like skids all over like the turf track, which is so painful if you've ever fallen on a track.
Yeah.
And she has this really nice moment with Janae though that like kind of helps her get bandaged up. And Addie's like, I don't really want to go to the nurse's office. I don't want to like visit that place given everything that happened. Um,
Yeah, so
and
she goes and
yeah,
she goes to the girls' restroom. Janae shows up and she essentially asks Addie if she wants to hang out later, and Addie's like, "Yeah, that works." But Janae is like, "My house is kind of like not the best place, so let's go to yours." So when they go to Addie's, Addie kind of leaves her to go get like a snack for her or something, and she leaves
yeah,
Janae in her room like a bit too long. And when she comes back, Janae's being really weird and rushes out. And Addie texts the interaction to Bronwyn, and Bronwyn is like, "Be careful. I don't trust her," which I
yeah.
also don't.
Same. Yeah, Janae's a little fishy.
Yeah.
And speaking of fishiness and shadiness, Cooper is brought back into the questioning, back in for questioning. The police are the ones being shady here. I will preface this. They have found out that the story that was supposed to be posted, instead of it was Cooper being on steroids, which is proven to be false time and time again. They find out that the story was Cooper is gay. And they literally force him to come out, and he has to come out to his dad that night. And his dad, as we know, is not very accepting of it.
It
So
is so wild because it's
yeah,
like they
it's
brought him in to, like, question him, and then, of course, like, it's like, well, if you're gonna be like, "Do you want your parents here for this?" The parents are gonna be like, "What's going on? What's going on? You're gonna have to
yeah,
come
it's
out."
so sad. It's so brutal and so unfair. Um the next day Cooper does come out to Addie. He just like wanted like someone to like get told versus like it just kind of like getting leaked as
Yeah.
it immediately does, which is also such a bummer. Everybody finds out and is trying to bully Cooper at lunch. Nate calls out Vanessa for being awful. And then the little detention buddies, they all sit together. Luis joins them because Luis is a ride or die friend, and we love that.
Yeah. So later the night that night the four of them meet up in this like unfinished house. They're like going to talk through possible facts to try to narrow down a suspect, but they don't really come up with much. And it seems like the media is kind of turning in their favor because later on McCallie's show, he is talking about how he's really furious that Cooper was outed, that the police
Yeah,
are just going off of suspicion and ruining these kids' life with like no real concrete evidence of anything, which makes sense because McCallie is also gay.
yeah.
And it seems like things are like finally changing. And then Bronwyn gets a call and she sees that Nate got arrested on the news, which is not good.
No, no, after everything was going so well, this is the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Um, Bronwyn, ever the person to take things into her own hands. She calls Eli, she gets Nate's mom to help. She's really trying to push them together because like Eli's like, Bronwyn, you cannot help with this. Like you were also a suspect. It's foul play.
Hmm.
You can't do that. So she's really encouraging like Nate's mom and him to work together, which is really nice. Um, but
Yeah.
things, sucks to be Nate, but great to be Cooper because colleges are finally giving him attention again. His dad's still ignoring him, but um,
Yeah, they're only giving him attention because they're getting hate for
he
discriminating
homophobic.
against
Yeah.
him, which sucks. I feel like it's
Uh,
like you're like, "All right, well, I have a token," and then my dad is also indicating that it's a choice to be gay.
yeah. But Nani's silver lining here. Nani's like, I want you to invite Chris over to dinner. So like maybe there's a little light at the end of the tunnel.
I know, really sweet. The next day, Bronwyn has a meeting with Nate's mom and Eli from Until Proven, and tells him that there's like evidence that they have against Nate. Eli tells Bronwyn, which is that there's EpiPens in his locker, a
Yeah.
notebook with all the Tumblr posts that were popping up on it, and she's like, it has to be planted. They've already like looked through all of his stuff. They searched his entire place. They found nothing,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really matter though because Eli's like they're sending him to federal prison. They might do that, and that's when Eli decides he's like, I have to actually take on the
Yeah.
case. I know I'm really busy, but like I
Yeah.
have to take it
Eli's
on.
yeah, Eli is like, this is too suspicious. I'm going to take on the case because this is fucked up. Um, checking in with Addie, TJ comes into her house to return the textbook, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to study? That could be fun. We're kind of friends now." And Addie's like, "No, I don't want to do that." And Addie's mom, who is awful, gets pissed because she thinks Addie's basically damaged goods now, and how dare she not want to spend time with a boy because
Gross.
clearly having a boy is how you define status as a woman.
I
It's
know.
awful. But Addie and Cooper then go to Bronwyn's, and Addie realizes as they're kind of comparing notes on this whole Nate situation that one of the details in the Tumblr posts is something she made up when she was telling Jake about what happened in
Mm-hmm.
the questioning. It was some like lie that she made up about like seeing like one of the detectives like eat an entire plate of donuts that never
Yeah.
actually happened. So
Jake's
that's
looking sus.
Jake's looking sus as fuck.
Bronwyn is on her own little investigative track. Luis found the number of this plate that was belongs to the car in one of the wrecks during
Mhm.
detention, and she tracks it down to this school. She waits in the parking lot until she sees him, and when he comes by, she basically just kind of asks if he saw anything weird, and he says, "Actually, I was thinking about telling you this, but someone paid me and my friends $1,000 to get into an accident." And she's like, "Oh, it has to be Jake." And he's like, "No, Actually, it was Simon who paid them, which is so weird.
Right? Kind of nuts. So now it's like, now Simon's looking sus, Jake's looking sus.
So Bronwyn's like,
Um,
I gotta hold a meeting with everyone and we
yeah.
gotta talk about this.
Yes. So coffee shop meeting through the eyes of Cooper. And it is conveniently located at the lobby level of Eli's building, which Eli enters the coffee shop saying, I don't see any of you because, like, again, I don't want this to interfere with my work. And Chris is also there. Chris is getting acclimated to the little friend group. And they're comparing their post-it notes. And Chris, fresh pair of eyes, is like, well, what if Simon committed suicide and Jake helped him? So they kind of rearrange their post-it notes and they're like, wait a minute, Jake and Simon did used to be friends. Could that be it?
And he also said something that Bronwyn remembered about him saying that he is just the omniscient narrator before he died and
Yeah.
drank his entire drink. So they're starting to think, did he set all of this up? He did say on one of the 4chan incel Reddit threads that he wanted to do something essentially more traumatizing and long lasting than a school shooting, and this would be it.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. And we do get a quick cutaway to Nate in juvie here. This is like a page and a half of him just like shutting down, doing
Oh,
what he's told, not talking to anybody. He's not doing well.
no, he's
Um,
not.
then we check in with Addie, who remembers another detail that Jake did hold her backpack the day that the phone was planted in all of their backpacks. So that's a little sus.
She
And
does. Yeah. She
yeah,
also notices that Janae's been out of school, so she's like, maybe I should check in on her and ask her about this.
and y'all, Janae's been out of school because she feels guilty because she's holding in a lot of things. She goes away for a minute, comes back with Simon's manifesto that basically confesses to this entire plan of committing suicide, making it look like a murder, framing all of these people and just forever ruining their lives because they're all wanted for murder. So,
Yeah.
wow.
Jesus. He had his reasons too. He was mad at everyone. Cooper got him blacklisted from that after prom. Bronwyn screwed him out of Model UN finals by
Yeah.
like accidentally giving him the wrong address, but it was an accident. And Keely, the girl that he was obsessed with, ended up kissing Nate, which kind of leaves Addie out of it. So Addie's like, well, why am I involved then? And it's because Jake figured out Simon rigged votes to be on prom court, and how pathetic is that? And so Simon shut Jake up by saying that Addie had cheated. So then Jake was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's frame all of them.
Yeah, so that's how Jake's involved, and he's our little puppet master now. And Jake has blackmailed Janae with some secret that we never find out, to help basically keep this hush hush.
I
And
think
that's
he
why
like
Janae,
recorded their convo and said that he would pin it all on Janae.
yeah, yeah. So like, and that's why Janae feels so guilty because she's like becoming friends with Addie, and she also misses her friend, and she also is just being like basically controlled at this point.
Yeah.
And she's the one who put it all on Nate because she was supposed to put it all on Addie and she couldn't bring herself to do that because Addie's been so nice to her. And at this exact moment, Jake shows up and Addie's like, I'm going to hide in the corner and record the conversation and we'll get out of this mess. But Addie, she has not put her phone on silent. So her phone rings up with whatever MP3 that she has as her ringtone.
It's a Rihanna song. I don't
It's a
remember.
Rihanna song. I hope it's "Shut Up and Drive." I don't remember which one it is,
I
but
don't think it's
this
one
next
that
scene
we
set to
know.
"Shut Up and Drive" would be really cool.
Oh, that'd be great. So her phone is going off, and Jake is like, okay, why are you here? And starts chasing her. And
Yeah.
she's running through the backyard, she's running through the woods, and he shoves her to the ground and slams her head into a rock. And he is like, you know what? You were supposed to be the one in jail, but this will do instead. And starts choking
Oh.
her.
Yeah, and as Addie is fading from consciousness because not only is she being asphyxiated, she has just obviously gotten her head bashed in. Cooper who was waiting in the car for her, runs into the woods,
Thank God.
tackles Jake, and we cut to Nate, who is getting let out of jail because Eli got him out. we learn that Addie is in the hospital and Jake has been arrested. So we get a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, she has like a minor fracture in her skull. And Nate is out, which he should be happy about, but he's kind of got some like not even survivor's guilt. He's just like, I should have done more, which maybe
Yeah.
is survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And Bronwyn is like all ready for this heroes reunion, but since Nate feels like he's contributed nothing, he's kind of internalizing those feelings of self-doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's being very distant, which we don't love.
Cooper's on
Um,
the cover of People magazine though in the
yeah, 1 week
meantime.
later, Cooper's on the upswing. His dad is like coming around to the whole gay thing, which we love. Thank you,
Which
Pop.
we love. Thank you, Papa.
And then the colleges are also coming around because they're like, oh my god, we could show how what an ally we
What
are.
a
So
woke we are.
a
Yeah.
little woke university. So things are looking good for him.
Janae's
Um,
gonna get a plea bargain, and she's friends with Addie, so things are looking up for
well,
her
what was
too.
her secret? That's the thing I'm realizing. I want to know what she was blackmailed with.
I don't
Um, Karen, you better tell us what. I'm gonna tweet at Karen constantly and be like, tell us Janae's
know.
secret.
Tell us.
Addie's
Um,
in recovery mode. We also learned that Ashton and Eli, they're becoming a little bit of a thing. That's kind of
oh,
cool. And Ashton gets her own little apartment and
yeah.
invites Addie to come live with her, which is really sweet because Addie and her mom don't get along.
That's a hero's ending right there. Bronwyn goes on McCallie Power investigation. She kind of wants to set the record straight. She says that she feels awful about cheating. She says she wishes she didn't do what she did to Simon. And she's like sad too because when she goes to Nate, she's like, I know what you're going through. I know it's hard. I'm here for you. And he's like, thank you for everything you've done. But I think we should go back to normal. Obviously, we don't belong in each other's lives. And
Boo!
why do they do that?
Boo! Boo,
Gross.
Nate, boo! That
She's
sucks. You
sad about
suck.
this, but she should keep her blinders on because she does get a tweet from Brown University saying that to err is human and that they are looking forward to her application to Brown. So,
Yeah. I think it was Yale. Wasn't it
oh, it
Yale?
was Yale.
It
It
was
was
Yale.
Yale.
Guys, it was Yale.
I'm
Um,
manifesting for me because I want to apply to Brown. It's Yale.
yes.
Um,
And then we're in epilogue center, the epilogue mode. It's 3 months later, and Bronwyn's kind of dating Evan, that guy from the beginning of the book that's, more her speed, as Nate would put it. But she talks about it being like a very safe romance. It's not like a very,
I'm not passionate.
passionate. She's also interning at Eli's, and it is the night of her big piano recital.
Mhm.
And she's still friends with like Addie and Cooper, and it's going really well. We also know that Ashton and Eli are officially official, and her piano recital goes really well. But she's like, can't help but feel like something's missing.
So she goes outside into the parking lot, and who does she run into but Nate, who's
Nate,
there?
who we learned that Addie has meddled Nate into being a fucking person and
Yeah,
standing up for his emotions.
like
And
three
he
months later. Come
Yeah,
on,
come
dude.
on. But he apologizes and actually apologizes like, well, not even just like, and I'm sorry if you felt like I didn't want to be with you. Like, no, he like genuinely apologizes.
Hmm.
And
And
and he asks her if he wants to go see Divergent too because he knows she likes the Divergent movies.
that's how it ends.
And that's how it ends. Happily ever after until book 2.
Who did you think it was?
For like the first part of the book, I was like very convinced, like, oh, if the title's One of Us is Lying, it's got to be one of the main four. And I
Mm,
was very much like, it's probably Addie. I was like, I feel like it's got to be Addie. And then once I kind of was like coming around to the idea that it could be somebody else, I started thinking it might be Maeve because she's like got all these computer skills.
oh,
Um,
interesting.
and then I started being like, I didn't really get Jake being super sus until like he was asking Addie all about the investigation. I think that's when I was like, maybe it could be Jake. But I really was like, for a lot of this, I was like, how is this book going to end?
Mm. I think I thought in the beginning it was Nate because I'm a sheep. Um,
Janae's
and then I think I was thinking it was Janae. Just because
also a really good guess.
I thought it was really sus how she like ran out so fast.
Yeah.
It definitely never crossed my mind that it was Simon that killed himself though.
Yeah, so true. Um, so let's
Interesting.
let's talk about our top 5, Maggie, because
Okay.
No. Let's end with the top 5 because
Fun.
this book, we realized, we were talking before we started recording, and we were like, canceled character doesn't really make sense in the vein of this book because it's kind of obvious you cancel like
The person
Jake,
who did all this, yeah.
Jake and or Simon or both. So we decided that the theme for this book series would be who's the biggest liar? Because one of us is lying, then which one of them lied the most
Yeah.
or the most believably?
For my biggest liar, I'm going to say Mr. Avery, the teacher of detention, because how
Wow.
can he hate phones? Take 4 phones away from kids at the beginning of the book, and then we never see it returned, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's he holding onto those phones for? Is he playing Pokemon Go on 4 phones? Mr.
Yeah.
Avery, we want answers.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Cooper because
Oh!
not only did he like lie about this like whole relationship. Like he probably had to have some lie with Chris going because like he had a girlfriend. It
Yeah.
wasn't even like Chris, I'm single. Like he was lying to Keely, he was lying to Chris, he was lying to Pops, lying to himself. Pretty
Okay,
important.
yeah, that makes sense. I think Cooper is makes
I
more sense
mean,
as an answer.
yeah, yeah, but Mr. Avery's also a really good one. Um,
Cooper's has legs, more than
yeah,
mine, though. I'm standing on
just a
one
little
leg like a
bit.
flamingo over here.
And then you're a beautiful flamingo, my friend.
And in lieu of lying, kind of ties into our top 5 too, because our top 5 is going to be the top 5 other secrets the main characters could have had that Simon might have revealed.
Yes.
What else could they be holding on to? Who wants to start? Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I'll start because I want to order this so I get to say number 1 because I'm really excited about number
Yeah,
1.
Laura came up with number 1. It's really good.
Yeah. But this was the one that Meggie mostly came up with, and we tag team kind of like the legs of it.
Mhm.
And we put a secret for Simon in here because we were like Simon would have a secret. And Simon's secret is that he loves Mall of America, and that he spent his entire savings to go secretly visit there one weekend.
Yeah, maybe he wanted a photo with Snoopy, or oh, I guess it's Nickelodeon now. Maybe he wanted to go on the SpongeBob roller coaster all
Yeah,
day.
maybe.
Number 4, our secret is good girl Bronwyn. Her real name is Bronathan Windsor Rojas. You ever heard of something like that? Because we
Yeah,
have.
pretty
It's her real
embarrassing if that
name.
got out, honestly. Number 3, Meggie slayed this one. Addie
Thank
used to be into witchcraft and probably cast some spells that she's still dealing with the consequences of. That's a very believable one, I feel like, given Addie's just journey in this book. So that's a
Honestly, who
big
hasn't?
slay from me.
Number 2, we think that Cooper has to bury every high school baseball from every game that he gets as like some weird superstition so he can pitch at his speed of like 93 miles per hour. I
Yeah.
just want people to know that that's an insane speed that
Yeah.
we forgot to mention. 93 miles per hour.
Absolutely. And number 1, Nate's big secret is that he likes to go to the supermarket and ride the little horsey rides that cost 25 cents. And that's his biggest secret.
Hey, sometimes you need a break from the hustle and bustle of drug dealing to just ride on a horsey machine.
Hey,
You
don't
know?
we all love to ride on a little horsey machine?
Don't we?
Uh, and on that note, we'll end it with a nay from us at Y'all We Read It.
I love that. Ride our horsey on Twitter and TikTok.
I love it. Keep going. Keep going.
I don't know. It's a train wreck. We are on Twitter and TikTok at Yeah We Read It. We are on Instagram at Meggie _and Laura. And if you want to make us freak out, and create a nondescript email and do a one of us is lying to us, you can email us too.
Yeah. Send us like a
Cryptic.
one of those like fucking letters that you use
Yeah.
to blackmail people. Those ones with all the magazine letters cut out.
Please.
Why am I forgetting? Ransom note. That's what I was
Yes.
thinking of. Send us one of those. That would be fun. I'd love to decode something.
Hold us hostage at Meggie and Laura present at gmail.com. But please don't hack us. I think we're too stupid. We don't get technology to understand
Yeah,
how to unhack.
please don't do that. But also maybe hold us hostage in your hearts, and maybe hold us hostage in your phones. If you subscribe to us, you'll get a download each and every time we upload a new episode. So
And isn't it exciting for you?
it's really exciting for you. You'll get some Maggie and Laura every single Wednesday whenever we're dropping a season. But next week we will be back with book number 2, which is One of Us
Back.
is it One of Us is Back? I think that
Oh
is that
no,
the
it's
third
One of
one?
Us is next. Dang
Yeah,
it.
it's
I
one of
was so
the
excited.
titles are so similar. I was gonna say Back, and I was like, I really think that's the third one I'm reading. One of Us
No, no,
is
no.
next.
Yeah.
Next. So next week we'll be talking about that. And until then, we hope you stay safe out there. Was that too creepy? We can do a bit different
And we'll
ending.
hold each other hostage in your hearts, in our hearts
That's
together.
beautiful. Together we love you. Nay.